Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. Hello to everybody. Make a switch. Yesterday, of course, day for yesterday, one of our devotees had asked for something about anahata and ahata. As far as we know, anahata is the unmanifested form of the soul, and ahata is the manifested form. Normally, when we go to a temple, the temple bell rings. Actually, the person who is operating, nowadays we don't know, he will have the second strike only when the first strike stops its vibration. That means it will be continuous. But for that continuous, easy way to understand anahata for people like us is when you chant Om or Sri Ram. Even after the vocal chanting, when the vocal chanting stops, the sound continues there. Or in a way, we all take it that we don't want to be too much technical about it. There is a big theory behind anahata and ahata. So instead of breaking our heads, when we chant vocal Ram Nam and mental Ram, mentally when we chant Ram Nam, there is a sound, but it is not produced outside. It is not manifested outside. Many people who have heard Puja Mataji talking about the different steps to realization. She used to say when they come to Anahata, in Chakra also there is an heart center, they will start hearing some sound. they should not stop. They should go. So anahata is the unexpressed form of sound. Gandhiji used to bring it out in a more easy way. He says in the prayer is no flight of eloquence. It is no lip homage. It springs from the heart. If therefore we achieve the purity of the heart, this is very important. Anahata sound will be heard, or we will know about this anahata, this unproduced sound, only when the heart becomes pure, serene, all-embracing. Nothing is there at the individual level. So much of purity should be there. So he says, it springs from the heart. If therefore we achieve that purity of the heart, when it is emptied of all but love. Love means absence of otherness. If we keep all the chords in proper tune, they trembling pass in music out of sight. It's a Tennyson's prayer, poem, that word Gandhiji uses. You know where he used this? When he was in London as a student, he took 3 vows before his mother. He will not touch non-vegetarian food. He will not take to alcohol. He will not misbehave with any ladies. So when he went there during his studies, on one occasion, he does not study, I don't know how. On one occasion, there was a get-together of all friends. And naturally, from the noble subjects, it started slipping into the mundane, from mundane to cravings. Finally, he was about to slip. One lady who was serving, he was about to slip. Suddenly, one person, the well-wisher, is there. He said, if there is no self-control, better you go. He got up and went. At that time he has written this. These words have come. It saved me, the anahata. That inner sound, it prompted him. So then later on he will say, it is always going on. The divine music is always going on, but we must have the divine music is incessantly going on within ourselves. But the loud senses drown the delicate music, which is unlike and infinitely superior to any we can perceive or hear with our senses. So this is called, we can understand anahata like this, not too much technical. From a standpoint of the devotee or aspirant, anahata is the divine music that is going on, not expressed out. Literal meaning is, nada or sound is divided into 2. Ahata, produced. Anahata, not produced. So the easy way is to concentrate on sound and ensure that the verbal or vocal, it stops. Then you hear, That is why this pranava mantra is used. When you chant Om, even collectively, individually, when you stop, it goes on by itself, the sound. Apparently there is no sound. So in our case we say mentally chanting of Rama. For that, if we have to hear that, some preparations are necessary. Then only the divine music can be heard. What we said is a preparation. Mental chanting, concentrating on Om, all these things are preparation, but the divine music, the real Nada Brahma, that's called Nada Brahma. That sound, now we are talking, there's a sound coming. That sound owes its origin to that. So when we stop all external sound, that is why silence is resorted to. Silencing the mind, not silencing our talk alone. That is the first preliminary stage, primary stage. Silencing the mind, stilling the mind. Then that is not the correct expression, but that is the only way we can express. Then what happens is the divine music, that means the blissful attitude, the blissful state. So better we try, when we try to lead a pure life, which is a must, not a self-centered life, God-centered life. Anahata Dhvani, that we will be able to hear. It is we can even say, it is not the sound that we have understood the sound, but it is a sound. An inexplicable, pleasant experience. So we try with the vocal sound, then we try to go deeper. Let's say Papa prescribed 3 types of chanting. Vocal, silent, mental. He also insisted that outer activity should be compatible with inner aspiration. That word we should never forget. Then only the last one will become effective. If Nama, the quality of the Nama chanting has to improve, our outer behavior towards His creation, it should become harmonious. As far as possible, there should be a constant urge in me to get rid of the otherness. Think. So the moment the otherness is there, that means the dirt is there. So that means qualitative chanting will not be taking place. Immediately we become alert. Nama itself serves as a sentinel, watchman. And it prompts us, hey, what are you thinking now and what are you chanting? So that is why this Nama purifies. It also purifies, but it requires His grace in the sense, we must not go out of the line. So Anahata sound, when we try to understand, it is nothing but, as far as sadhaka is concerned, purity is essential. Another thing is, unless and until we reach that stage, we will not be able to say anything about that sound. Gandhiji could say that. The divine music is going on, is incessantly going on within ourselves. But the loud senses drown the delicate. Senses, all our sense organs. They ignore this voice and they try to go out, keep themselves busy there, hardly taking notice of the divine. So when all those senses are under control, that is purity. then we will be able to hear. And it is not the hearing that we all now have a concept about hearing. It can't be explained, Raga. How the raga has come there. Can you imagine? Even now when you close your eyes and chant any name, just watch where from that sound comes. The moment you stop chanting, what happens? When somebody is leading, we are hearing, Hearing means what? The sound is there, Yeah. And our sound, suppose our mind is going elsewhere, will we be able to hear the sound? Somebody is chanting or rendering some music, we are sitting there, our ears are open, but if the mind, senses are out, will we be able to think? So it's a good thing that this particular topic has come up for reflection. So normally we say Om or temple, he will is uninterrupted, there is anahata. So it goes on like that. The temple bell, when he strikes, there is a vibration going on, like that. And when it stops, about to stop, he will give again one more. So the vibration continues. That is one interpretation. Uninterrupted flow. So that is going on, according to Gandhiji's words, that is going on incessantly in our heart. We are unable to hear it because the mind has not become pure. Senses are still dominating. So in our case, our pathway is Ramnam. So if the Ramnam has to become effective, giving me the visa to enter into, then I must qualify myself. There are certain prerequisites to get this visa. Absolute purity, pure 100% God-centeredness, then only we will hear. This is what some Mahatmas talk about anahata. But we try to understand it through mental chanting of Rama, where the sound is not expressed, but we are conscious of the sound. If we are not conscious of it, the mind is going elsewhere. And only the silent chanting will pave the way for Sakshi Bhava, witness consciousness. And that is nothing but the awareness, absolute God realization. This is what Papa explains about it. So Papa gives a lot of importance for mental chanting. I think we can limit ourselves to this anahata and to vocal chanting and mental chanting. And mental chanting will become effective only when our heart is becoming purer and purer. Otherwise, the moment the mental chanting starts, mind will go, because there is nothing to hold on here. Nothing apparently external there. Papa has written that when the mind refuses to become quiet, seek his surrender, self-surrender. I cannot do it, please. So So that self-surrender paves the way for the emergence of witness consciousness. To say is, when we sit quietly, when we sit silently, we have to be conscious in the first place that the God we seek is in our own heart. First prerequisite. Then mentally repeat His name. Make the mind repeat the name until all its waves cease and it becomes perfectly still. If it does not easily become still, we have to continue the repetition of the name mentally with an attitude of self-surrender. Then we try to develop a witness consciousness. It is a state of awareness of the immortal, radiant truth within us. In fact, this awareness itself is God realization. So mental repetition, ceaseless. So from the vocal we try to train our mind to take up mental chanting, mental chanting, mental chanting. Because then only we are paving the way for the indwelling reality to come out. That is why mostly when we it is not that we are degrading the importance of the vocal chanting. There is a joy in it. But let us watch ourselves. What happens to us? Are we moving? Are we feeling the sense of nearness of God? So up to certain level, this vocal chanting will definitely help, and collectively it will help. But real progress will start only from mental chanting. Because here we are facilitating for the indwelling reality to emerge in the form of Sakshiva. Sarvadi Sakshivo. The watcher is the real you, the self-immortal. Elsewhere Papa says. Witness consciousness means the watcher. The watcher is the real you, the self-immortal. All our attempts are only to feel His presence. So outwardly, we should become purer and purer and purer and purer. Internally we should become purer and purer and purer. That means only love. Love means absence of otherness. And as Gandhiji says, suppose I am not pure, what is the... No, chanting itself will make us pure. Every time we should feel, pray, cry, weep, appeal. Why are you not making me pure? You have given me the urge to have your darshan, face-to-face darshan. But at the same time, you have allowed all the chabalas, cravings to go here and there. What am I to do now? This is what Papa did. If you go through the outpourings in the inquest of God last, you will find this inner struggle, the tug of war, and how finally, he was able to conquer it. So this is the method he has placed before us. All these thoughts came because somebody raised the topic. This is enough, We need not be too much technical or subjective about it. Ultimately, it should enable us to move faster towards it. Then coming back to yesterday, a few articles we had to read because for want of time. All these things are surrounded by this. The self is free from desire, from evil and from fear. The man who is in union with the self, not under the clutches of the senses, we should know that. We are adding that word. The man who in union with the self sees without seeing, smells without smelling, tastes without tasting, speaks without speaking, hears without hearing, touches without touching, thinks without thinking, knows without knowing. For why? For there is nothing separate from him. This state of not having another is the state of unity, one without a second, and that is the world of Brahman. World is God. This is the supreme goal of life, the supreme treasure, the supreme joy. Cosmic Table Spread by Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. The Quran says that God is the light of the skies and the earth. This means that the world is entirely an expression of divine attributes. A sensitive heart will see reflections of God in everything that exists here. The entire cosmos is a table spread of divine sustenance. If faith in God gives someone the sensitivity that true faith in God engenders, he will see God's light everywhere in the universe. When the breeze touches him, he will feel that he is experiencing the touch of God. In the softness of the breeze, in the flow of a stream, he will see the mercy of God expressing itself. When he hears the chirping of birds, his heart will witness a soul-stirring tune played on a divine musical instrument. When he smells a fragrant flower, it would be like bathing in divine fragrance. Wow. Every single thing in this world has been made in such a way that on seeing it, man can draw a lesson. Those who truly love God can experience these divine states. The flame of the forest is a tree that bears amazingly beautiful flowers. When autumn comes and its leaves fall, the tree appears like a dry stick, but then a silent revolution happens. It sprouts brilliantly, huge flowers. What was a dry stick is now laden with stunning flowers. It seems as if God especially sent his beautiful umbrella for something that was thought to be a useful stick. This happens so that some servant of God may see it and exclaim, Lord, I too am a flame of the forest, to bloom on. If you want, you can cause beautiful flowers to bloom on me. I am a dried stick. If you want, you can make me green. I am leading a meaningless existence. If you want, you can fill my life with meaningfulness. Perennial Philosophy by Ekanatheshwaran. He is quoting somebody. I have spoken at times of a light in the soul, a light that is uncreated and uncreatable. To the extent that we can deny ourselves and turn away from created things, we shall find our unity and blessing in that little spark in the soul which neither space nor time touches. These words, addressed to ordinary people in a quiet German-speaking town almost 700 years ago, testify to a discovery about the nature of the human spirit as revolutionary as Einstein's theory about the nature of the universe. Mr. Eckhart's passionate sermons, straining to convey the absolute in the words of the street and marketplace, became immensely popular. These words. And what did he teach? Essentially, 4 principles, would later call the perennial philosophy, because they have been taught from age to age in culture after culture. First, there is a light in the soul that is uncreated and uncreatable, unconditioned, universal, deathless. In religious language, a divine core of personality which cannot be separated from God. Eckhart is precise. This is not what the English language calls the soul, but some essence in the soul that lies at the very center of consciousness. As Saint Catherine put it, my me is God, nor do I know myself, my selfhood except in God. In Indian mysticism, the divine core is simply called Atman, the self. Second, the divine essence can be realized. It is not an abstraction. It need not. And says must not remain hidden under the covering of our everyday personality. It can and should be discovered so that its presence becomes a reality in daily life. Number 3, this discovery is life's real and highest goal. Our supreme purpose in life is not to make a fortune, not to pursue pleasure, not to write our name in history, but to discover the spark of the divine that is in our hearts. We discover simultaneously that the divinity within ourselves is one and the same in all individuals, all creatures, all of life. Dear children, every time our mission has a small story, very simple but very thought-provoking story. A man wanted to smoke. He went to a neighbor's house to light his charcoal. It was the dead of night and the household was asleep. After he had knocked a great deal, someone came down to open the door. At the sight of the man asked, "Hello, what is the matter?" The man replied, "Can't you guess? You know how fond I am smoking. I have come here to light my charcoal." The neighbor said, "You are a fine man indeed. You took the trouble to come and do all this knocking at the door. Why have you lighted a lantern in your hand?" He has gone with a lantern. What a man seeks is very near him. Still he wanders about from place to place. Epistles of Swami Ramdas. Beloved Ram, life is sweet when it is filled with the nectar of praying. In this supreme state, the ordinary human mission is transformed into divine vision. The individual sense of life is changed into the universal consciousness. The movement of darkness are substituted by the playful waves of light. The contracted and fettered life gives place to the free, vast, unlimited expanse of existence. Pain and sorrow are transmuted into eternal peace and joy. The blinding ignorance vanishes and the illuminating light of knowledge takes its place. Chaos and confusion have no room. Harmony and peace reign instead. Thus life becomes completely blessed, exalted, purified, supremely free and blissful. Through going through the contents of the prayer, I find my God everywhere. So we took up so many, one by one again we have to do the recap. We have 15 minutes. Then what shall we take up? In the list, hills days over, fields over, workshop over, office over, marketplace over, forest, everybody likes a trip through forest, though we are a little bit alert on the wild animals, still we go there, We have to watch ourselves. What is that prompts us to go there? Different types of trees, different types of flowers. And there is stillness there. First one that attracts is the stillness. Though every tree is busy with its metabolic activities, birth, growth, fruition, flowering, so many things are going on, but all silently. So we spend, just like when we go to the beach and calm, sit there quietly, we go to the forest and just hear, just keep our eyes open, ears open. Stillness, calmness, quiet, green and fresh. About 25 miles from this ashram, there was a barren land a few years back, absolutely barren, dry land, with not even a single shrub. But God prompted one Abdul Karim, who was in Gulf countries, we were told. He came here, bought these 20 or 25 acres of land, and then by his perseverance, patience, commitment, every rainy season he will bring different types of seedlings of trees, and now it has become a wonderful forest. We had the privilege to go there and witness. It has come in the Guinness Book. In the Google it will be there if you go and see that. It's a sight to be seen. Everything is, you can go there, just watch and come back. Every now and there you will find some water pot or something, where the water is there. What for? It's for the birds, animals. Reptiles are there. Different types of shrubs with thorns, without thorns. Different types of trees with flowers, with fruits. People go there. Children go there. You have to be silent throughout. That's why we remembered now. You can just watch. The stillness, quietude, greeneries, everything is fresh. Then, living together in harmony, it maintains each uniqueness, different shapes and characteristics. Different types of trees, Unlike us, they don't fight. Unlike us, they don't insist for their ownership. But they all live, they all bring out their fullest efficiency. So what does God teach us? We should not forget about it. Not to see the characteristics of the forest. Through the characteristics of the forest, God is teaching us. God is making His presence felt in us in the form of stillness, quietude, freshness, harmonious living. Small insects, reptiles, animals, birds, trees. Just imagine. God is telling us, you see how I am allowing the co-creations to exist harmoniously, right from the tiniest to the grasses. Please think about it. It is not simply going on a safari to a forest area, no. Pause, see. So giving space to everything balances development. Even if there is a landslide, next year you will find something sprouting there. Many of you might have gone to such places. Say for example in Wayanad, where prior to coming to ashram we were there for more than 30-40 years. There is a ghat section there. When you are up, from there you can see. Even today it's a sight to be seen. You have to pass through forest. But nowadays, a lot of people are there. And Wayanad to Mysore, there is a 12-mile forest area. Even now it's forest area. Wild elephants are there, so many there. To see a photograph itself is a joy for us. Different types. Uncontaminated, very important. Pure. When development happens, he provides the forest to counter the pollution and contamination. The human being is there. When they go as tourists, they put all this plastic and everything. That is called virgin forest, Nowadays they have put a lot of boats. Why? Just go and spend some time. We remember there is still, now it is all crowded business centered tune. There was a lake very near to the beginning of the Ghat section. So 30-40 years back, whenever we come to ashram and we take some prayer or books, so there we go every Sunday. Some friends from the nearby town will come. It is a forest area, absolutely a forest area. We all go there and we will have a 2-3 hour session there, accepting the chirping of the birds every now and then, otherwise no. Then we make a round again of the lake, different types of flowers, and there very little talking or reading. Most of the time absorbing, assimilating. It is a place where you can easily reflect and contemplate, because there are no outside disturbance. Absolutely no. So God is telling that I am providing you through forest a most conducive environment for your reflection. Try to develop it. Don't contaminate, don't pollute. When you go there, you behave well, You don't spoil the virginity there. And one more line, it is for the scientist to say that, we have heard this, it is the place where the human race began. So first everything was forest. We know the different types of, from Darwin's theory of evolution. So how it evolved. So that is our base. Everything is original there. Nothing is artificial. When we come out, we have learned now how to propagate through this, what do you call that? There are so many scientific systems by which you can make a plant now.
Hybrid.
Hybrid? No, not hybrid. It is called some cell tissue culture. Tissue culture is there. Agreed. But here everything is original. Everything is original. The so-called individual has not spoiled anything there. That could be one of the reasons why you and I are drawn to that place. Everything is original. How it came, where it came, is a thought for our inquiry. So just think about it. So many other dimensions may come. We'll take it up tomorrow. So we started with Anahata and Ahata. Finally, again we concentrated on the inner light. We came to know that mental chanting is the best way to hear the Anahata. Uninterrupted, at the same time, unexpressed form of sound. And Papa has assured us that will lead us to the emergence of witness consciousness, again resulting in God realization. So then we came to the light of lights, the person who is going with a lantern for getting fire, somebody's house. It is exactly the light of light that is inside us. So light of lights means the awareness, because of which we are what we are. We feel we are what we are. No? The awareness absolute. Elaborately, everybody discussed about it. Then we also took up God in the form of forest. More we will take it up tomorrow. We again repeat our request. We would like to have the feedback on all the points that we have touched, so that it doesn't become a session like that. It becomes a sadhana for both of us. It will give us more so that we can share it to many others. Your contribution will help us to make us more effective in our sadhana, and at the same time enable us to pass it on to others. Each one's dimension may be different, perspective may be different. So kindly do that and send as many of your reflections through email. Hari Om.